Constitution. I love the First Amendment. I want to carry and all laws. I love property. And let me tell you something. If you care about your country, I'll read Ludwig von Mises and the 6 lessons of the Austrian Economic School, motherfuckers.
From the streets of Melrose Park to the trading floor of the Merc, he's fought for every dollar he's ever earned. And now, with personal liberty and our system of capitalism under assault in America, he's here to seize back our rights from the government. With a cigar in one hand and a copy of the Declaration of Independence in the other, he's Shaun Thompson. And this is the Shaun Thompson Show.
Some folks are born made to wave the flag.
We are about to talk some business. Are you ready? We're going to talk business. We're going to talk big business. We're going to talk small business. We're going to talk business growth and the true fundamental principles of capitalism. And my friend, who I'm going to bring on, is a doctor of economics. His whole life studying economics and then looking at some men's magazines just because he wanted to look good when he's on TV. Successful. And he does. He does. One thing, though, I was just thinking, now that the crack smoker, the fake teeth, Hunter Biden, is back on the tour. When we talk money, don't you think it's important to understand the kind of real Renaissance financial wizard Hunter Biden was?
The first chart here shows a bank record showing a $1 million wire transfer into the account of Hudson West 3 from CEFC Limited on November 2nd, 2017. As Senator Grassley and I have already established, CEFC is effectively an arm of the Communist Chinese regime. It is also important to note that at the time of this transfer, in November 2017, Hunter Biden was already invested in and providing management for Hudson West 3. So a company that was effectively an arm of the Chinese government transferred $1 million in November 2017 to a company that Hunter Biden is managing and is invested in.
What for? Consulting. Ooh, now there's some business right there. E.J. Antoni, who needs numbers, productivity of markets, true growth, when you can get $1 million from some Chinese communists if you promise your dad will craft policies to make them trillionaires? What do you think?
Shaun, what are you having me on for? I mean, frankly, you need to have Hunter Biden on. He's the one who knows how to make the big bucks. I feel like, what am I, chopped liver here? I mean,
were you ever on the board of an energy company?
Wire transfer?
No. How about a board of an energy company? You ever on a board of an international oil company, one of the only 2 energy companies in Ukraine? Of course not. This guy's a financial wizard. Why isn't he on CNBC? Can you ask Stuart Varney if there's talk of a Hunter Biden crack hour for me?
Shaun, look, I'm going out on a limb here, so I could be wildly off. But something tells me maybe he's not getting all these positions for his financial acumen. Maybe, again, long shot here, maybe it has something to do with, I don't know, connections, influence, backroom deals. What do you think?
Well, and don't forget about the Chinese entertainment company. He was also on a Chinese entertainment company. In fact, when you look at his real resume, he has pretty much done everything from international banking to energy policies to entertainment. A true Renaissance man. But here's what the broader point is. See, his low-life rat trader father added $9 trillion onto our national debt in 4 years. It is the most money in the shortest period of time in world history. And we're going to play patty cake now. You see, here's what I want to do. What I want to do is invalidate the most obvious election theft in U.S. history. Claw back all of anything this imbecile signed or we pretend is a bill, and at least go back to when Trump was robbed, because that's the only way we can slow down this automatic fraud that is spending. And as you see these senators pretend to care about a war in Iran, these are the same simpletons that rubber stamped $300 billion to Ukraine. And it was orchestrated by the Biden mafia, only following the path of the Obama mafia. I really think if we don't start playing hardball, these time goes by fast, brother. You know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, Shaun, you're absolutely right. And look, at the end of the day, if Congress, including those clowns in the Senate, if they're not willing to actually cut spending, if they're not willing to do what needs to be done and what should have been done years ago, then the bond market's going to force them to do it. I mean, look at today, and forgive me if you already talked about this, but you had the 2 and the 10-year hitting the highest yields of the year, setting new records for 2026. The market's waking up to this. Yields are converging at about 5%, it looks like. That is going to absolutely break the back of this federal budget. You're knocking on the door of $40 trillion in debt right now. 5% yield. Do the math. I mean, we're already paying by the end of this fiscal year, Shaun. We're gonna cross $1.3 trillion in interest on the debt. Imagine when the average interest rate on the entire debt gets up to 5%. Because I got news for you. Well, not you. You already know this, but I got news for the audience. All of that old debt that was issued at 1%, 2%, 3%, it's coming due, and it's simply rolling over. We can't pay off the debt, so we just borrow new money to pay off the old. That means you're exchanging 2% debt for 5% debt, plus all of the freshly borrowed money for today's spending is also being issued, obviously, at 5%. This is a disaster waiting to happen. Again, the bond market is already waking up to it. We can't afford to spend any more money. And if Congress won't make the cuts, the bond market is going to force them to.
Well, that's ghettonomics, as it's referred to every day from 4 to 7 Central. That's what it is. It's ghettonomics. It's the same kind of fraudulent lie, financial crime perpetrated on people that Democrat areas do. And what the Democrats in Congress and the Senate, with a little help from the economic illiterate so-called Republicans, what they've done is force the entire country to adopt ghettonomics because they didn't understand the magnitude of their decisions. They didn't understand what their duty really is. It's not to your constituents, it's to the principles of the country, which are the principles of financial solvency. I'm so tired of pretending that these imbeciles like John Thune, who I don't know what he's ever done. What has he ever done in his life? From my research is he was Mitch McConnell's page, his lap boy. Went to law school, became a lawyer, went right into politics, just like Mitch, just like all these other idiots. And it's the Senate that's been jamming up everything, and it's Republicans. So I don't ever want to hear, and you tell these people, don't ever tell people to vote Republican again. Because you get a John Thune, you get a Mitch McConnell, which I got $20 as he's been dead for 3 weeks, or you get a Murkowski or Collins. You're not on my frickin' side. You don't know your ass from your elbow. You certainly don't know the magnitude of what your responsibility is, and you're going to force us into a market correction or a problem that should have never existed. None of what happened today should exist.
Yeah, Shaun, I mean, look, the Republicans got a serious problem. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. They got a really, really serious problem, I think, because you had a record amount of young people come out and vote, and they voted for Donald Trump. He didn't get the majority of that group. That's not what I'm saying. That's obvious. But Republicans never do. What was so shocking was the incredible percentage of people in that category that broke for Trump. Well, right? In the same way he made such incredible inroads with Hispanics. And the reason he got so many young people is because Republicans convinced so many young people to vote for the first time. It's a demographic with notoriously low turnout. So they got all of these people to come out and vote for the first time, and now they're all incredibly disappointed.
That was Charlie Kirk, in my opinion. He was the Pied Piper of that whole movement, in my opinion. But you know,
I think you're right. I think you're right. Yeah, but what have the Republicans delivered? We were promised DOGE and trillions of dollars in spending cuts. Republicans decided not to put that into statute, even though DOGE handed it to them on a silver platter. You know, we have all this war spending now. We have oil at, again, knocking on the door of $100 a barrel. Cost of living is still a problem. And I lay a lot of this blame at the feet of Congress, but regardless of who gets the blame, the fact is, I think Republicans have a big problem. They promised a lot, and they haven't yet delivered.
Well, I think this is also what I'm optimistic about, and I mean it. This is the thing I've watched my whole life, right? The fraud system, the duopoly of thievery and skullduggery. Heads they win, tails we lose. That's what we've always played, like the old gangsters in my neighborhood, right? That's what it is. That's who John Thune is. John Thune's a feckless fraud moron who should be ashamed of himself if he had any dignity or character. But you know who knows that? These kids who voted like you said. And what Donald Trump has always represented, I just can't figure it out why he doesn't pull the pin. He is the third party. Him and him alone. Now, can he take Rubio? Absolutely. But he's old now. Let's call it what it is. Now's the time to break the back of the very party that stabbed you in yours. These scum, Murkowski, Tillis, Cornyn, these are the scourge that couldn't wait to get back to business as usual because they made a fortune when these economic illiterate politicians from Barack Obama to Biden started to crank out the debt. They unmoored us from financial responsibilities. They crafted policies, and everybody got their beak wet. That's how they get rich. They don't want a capitalist in the White House. They certainly don't want another capitalist after Trump. So Trump has the option, and I think he should do it now. I know the midterms, right here with the midterms. Everybody he backs, people are going to pick anyway. This is now the third party. End of story. Do it when you're in power. So you don't need these idiots anymore.
Yeah, Shaun, it's amazing how, well, let me put it this way. You know, Trump came down that escalator and he started asking a bunch of questions that you're not allowed to ask. He started saying a bunch of things that you're not allowed to say. The Republican Party didn't want him. They begrudgingly had him in the primaries. They begrudgingly had him in the debates. And he just cleaned everybody's clock by saying what I think a lot of us just in our hearts knew was true, even if we're not necessarily allowed to say it in polite company or whatever the case may be. But, you know, he talked about...
Well, I don't hang with polite company. You're the politest guy I know. Yeah. And now I want you to understand what's going on. Yeah, I don't know if you saw this dingbat, this moron here. What's her name? Salazar?
We're talking about those millions and millions of illegals, undocumented people who belong to my community. Probably 80% of the undocumented belong to the Hispanics, the largest and fastest growing minority in the country. So why don't we give them dignity? Let them stay. Those who do not have
no one can ever give someone else dignity. If they wanted dignity, they would have come here under the rule of law like the 30 million people that did so before them. I am so sick of this idiot. Throw this $2 whore out onto Biscayne Boulevard and don't ever vote for her ass again. And that goes with the same scumbag who crafted H.R. 9535 under agriculture. He's trying to do the same fracking thing.
Yeah, dignity is not handed out like candy, okay? Dignity is earned. The people who came to this country and made it great, the people who built cities like Chicago, they came here legally and they worked their tails off. They didn't live off the dole. They didn't penalize American citizens by making those Americans go to work and pay taxes so that they could come here illegally and then live off of the taxpayer dime. So spare me this dignity nonsense. If you want dignity, follow the law. If you want dignity, go back to where you came from and enter the country legally like everybody else had to do until Biden threw the borders open, right? That's how you get dignity, by actually following the rules, by doing the right thing. There's no dignity in breaking the rules. There's no dignity in making other people pay for your life.
And
that's not
her community is primarily legal. They're primarily from Cuba, but they're legally here. They came here at a time, they followed the certain rules. Some of them are from the agreement with that moron Jimmy Carter. These are their grandkids and the rest of it. However, what an insult to the most proud Americans. You know, you could argue if the one of the ethnicities with the greatest pride and liberty is the former communists from Cuba, like my best friend, who is right now with his parents in Miami. And the balls of this girl to give innuendo that they are somehow linked to an illegal alien because they may come from Spanish heritage way back 1,000 years. That's the race game, but it's also an intellectual fraud. And you insult every person of any nationality, but specifically Hispanics, the ones who did it right. There is one reason and one reason only to come here illegally, and that is anonymity. You're either hiding from a criminal past or you're prepared to be a criminal here. End of story. There are 8 pathways. I'm so sick and tired of this. This is a low IQ, race-based argument that scumbags in Chicago make, not us. I want to throw every one of these fraud Republicans. I would never vote for any one of them.
Yeah, and Shaun, look, the whole reason. Well, let's think of it in economic terms, right? The counterfeit version of something has no value, right? It's the real thing that has the value. The counterfeit is it's fool's gold, right? It's not real, and that's effectively, I think, what she and many others confuse when they talk about the value of immigrants and everything, and they're really trying to take the real value of honest, hardworking, legal immigrants and impart that unfairly onto these illegal aliens when that's simply not the case. Again, the dignity and the value of these immigrants comes from the fact that they enter the country first legally and then what they do thereafter, such as, again, working hard, starting their own business, you name it.
So, but the money that's been made in the name of this. I've got a story on the board, EJ, that you would love. It's about a Chinese billionaire who owns a hotel in L.A. And during COVID, he cuts a deal with the L.A. scum Democrats. They give this guy a $100 million contract for 1 year. And it's per room, not per alien. So he rents out every room, and he puts 20% of the hotel. That's all he ever turns over. He puts homeless Americans and illegal aliens in it, and he charges for the whole. He doesn't run out the other 80%, and he makes a fracking fortune. And he's supposed to throw in food, but he cuts a deal midway through where they pay him double for the food. So he takes $100 million contract. He turns it into 170, 180 million the whole time from China. He doesn't even live here. And that's all this is. Same thing in Chicago. They went to these ghetto rat motels that nobody wanted to go to if you were sober or have an IQ over 60 or any kind of sense of what soap is. And they filled it to capacity. They made a fracking fortune. They doctor the profits, and then they sell it to some conglomerate as if it's a functioning, decent hotel off an expressway. I mean, what you're really dealing with here is financial crimes, and none of it is possible if Joe Biden doesn't first steal the election. And the evidence that come out now with the double counting and the rest of it, and Jack Smith lying to Congress and the rest of it, do the people in Washington where you live know that right now I want to hear more of the Jack Smith turned over to the DOJ? I want everybody to go to prison. Everybody. And I'm not alone. There are tens of millions of people like me. And I don't want to hear about midterms. Don't say midterms. I'm from Illinois. You know who runs in Illinois? One good guy for 50 scoundrels. So I don't care. We'll figure out who the good guy is. He ain't going to win anyway in these Democrat areas. They steal elections.
Shaun, in terms of people, what are they saying here in D.C.? I mean, it really is astonishing. I don't know if you saw, but our friend Larry Kudlow, he was interviewing a senator and Republican.
Yeah, Lakeford.
Exactly, and he's just basically berating him, essentially saying, "What the heck are you guys doing?"
Yeah.
And it really is amazing how once these politicians essentially they do these hearings or they do these stunts or these press conferences, sometimes even these media interviews to just get the quick 30-second clip they want for a donor email, and then they're done with it. And then they kick the issue to the curb because once they're done, I guess once they're done using it as a fundraising opportunity, it is of no further use to them. And then they just don't care. It is absolutely astonishing. So whether it's the spending, whether it's the election transparency issues that you're talking about, you name it. These guys, and maybe not all of them, but it certainly seems like the vast majority of them, Shaun.
It's a game. You know what it is? They just want to wait them out. They want to wait this time out. They want to go back to the Bush years. And I'm going to tell you something right now. Now, we've only got a few weeks, so I'm going to talk to you every week. Obviously, I love these, at least as long as you can before Shaun Fest. But I'm going to tell you right now, by Shaun Fest. Now, you know how I like to bet. I'm going to, with two cigars, we smoke it there. There'll be cigars there. Okay, so guy with a cigar table. 2 cigars, I buy or you buy. I am going to tell you right now, Mitch Dracula, in my opinion, I speculate, has been dead for weeks. This will go down as the greatest political scandal, and it'll suck all the air out of the tent that Joe Biden stole the election, Barack Obama ordered the CIA and the NSA and the DIA and all the rest of them to make up the Russia collusion thing. It'll suck it all up because, after all, the Republicans, the guy's been mortadel. He's finito. Where is he? I don't buy that picture at all. In fact, I think he looked a lot like Gary Oldman in Dracula. What do you think?
Shaun, it will be beyond suspicious if it turns out that he passes away right after that deadline coming up.
Oh, yeah. I smell a rat. That's why I love having you on. You risk your entire career by speaking to me as you are in the belly of the beast. And so I appreciate it. I love you. Thanks. We'll keep an eye out for you on Stuart Varney.
Hey, Shaun, pleasure's all mine. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you. We'll be back with your calls and comments.
Broadcasting from the petri dish of corruption known as the state of Illinois.
In the upper Midwest, the nation, and around the world.
This is the Shaun